I don't have a gavel. How can we start without a gavel? There's no gavel? What's the city doing with my gavel? Okay, this is just gabbled. This is the, where's my, welcome to the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority Board of Directors agenda for Thursday, October 15th, 2020. We're still complying with the governor's directive as far as meetings and trying to minimize gatherings, especially in closed spaces. And so we will continue to honor that directive until it's released. So what we're going to do is open it up to a call, roll call, please. Thank you.
Vice Chair Heyman.
Present.
Chairman Gleason.
Here.
Director Kaczynski.
Here.
Director Page.
Present.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Morning, everybody. Item number 2 is public comment on closed session. Let's open it up to the public for comment on our closed session agenda. Okay, I'm getting the wave off, so we'll close the public comment in closed session and enter closed session. Adjourn open session and move into closed session. Could I have a closed session room, please? Welcome. Can you lower my microphone just a little bit, please? Thank you. Welcome to the October 15th, 2020 Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority meeting. Still complying with governor's directives in terms of compliance with COVID directives. And so let's open the meeting, a call to order, and let's have a roll call, please.
Vice Chair Heyman.
Present.
Chairman Gleason.
Yep.
Director Kaczynski.
Here.
Director Page.
Present.
Director Vallejo.
Present.
Do we have 2 other members, non-voting members? Commander Benson? Commander Benson, you here?
Hey, I'm here. Yep. Sorry, I fumbled with the mute button.
Tom, you here? BLM? Thank you. Okay, let's wrap up closed session. Report on closed session, please.
The board met on all 3 items listed on closed session. Nothing to report on any item.
Thank you, sir. Pledge of Allegiance. Start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mr. Heyman, followed by a moment of prayer, silence, and meditation, whichever you prefer.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, great, outstanding. Let's open up with, we do the roll call, we get the pledge. Let's open up public comments. Do we have anybody from the public who wishing to speak to the board? I heard the phone ringing a minute ago. Yes, sir. Ma'am, you're on. Caller, you're up.
Hello, this is Renee Westolusk.
Yeah, I think you said your name was Renee. Could you start again, please?
Yeah, this is Renee Westolusk, and I have some information I wanted to bring to the GA regarding a publication that was in the Daily Independent. It was called Who We Are 2020, and they had a section on IWV GSA.
Renee, could you excuse me just for a second, please?
Yeah.
We're trying to work out some audio issues here. I think we'll have it in a second. Okay. If you just be patient,
Okay.
I'll give you a signal when it's good to talk. Hey, Renee, could you count to 5?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No, that's not doing it, Renee. I think you miscounted. Could you just try that one more time?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, right there we got it. I think on number 5 we got it. So start from the beginning, Renee, please.
Okay. My name's Renee West-Delusk. I wanted to bring it to the attention. There was a publication. It was put in the Daily Independent. It was an extra publication entitled Who We Are 2020. And they had an article about the IWV GSA. Can you still hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In that article, they went in depth about the two ways we could bring water to our valley. But there's a sentence in there that alluded to the AVEC pipeline would have to be treated water, and that's not correct because it was in the Water Marketing Strategy Technical Memo by Capital Core Group, and it specifically mentions, like in 3 places in the report, I can give the pages, but like page 11, page 12, page 29, and page 30 alludes to the fact that the AVEC water would not have to be treated, and it would be the LA aqueduct method of getting water to our valley, and that would have to be treated. So I think in the future, if there's going to be an article written about the IWV GSA, and that someone from the staff or Stetson's Engineering maybe needs to proofread it before it goes to publication.
Okay, Renee, got it.
Okay, and I want to let you know it's on page 19 of the Daily Independent publication, Who We Are 2020, where there's a sentence in there. It says, beyond the pricey sum, and they were referring to the Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency pipeline. The Groundwater Authority would also have to pay for treatment of the water. So
No.
that's what I'm saying needs to be corrected. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. I wish we had 100 of you in Ridgecrest.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye.
All right. I really do.
Good comment. Renee Westler.
Okay, Steve, you're not on mute, just for your information. I see no other public comments. Good. Okay, outstanding. Thank you very much. So we'll close public comment and go to the consent agenda. 2 items. A, approve the minutes of the board meeting September 17th, 2020, and B, approve expenditures 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's open it up to the public for comment regarding our consent agenda.
Chair Gleason?
Yes,
Can I just
ma'am,
make
sir.
a comment with regard to B2? Just to remind the board, I think they're aware of it, but although you're approving Capital Corps' expenditure, that the Water District is paying that
Thank
directly.
you. Thank you. I forgot to do that. I know I was alerted to do that by you earlier, Don, and I forgot all about it. Okay, it's open for the public for comment on our consent agenda. I don't see any calls at the present time. Public comment on the consent agenda and bring it back to the board.
This is, I don't want to pull anything. I just have a question, I guess, because last time we asked that these expenditures be broken out into what's being paid by the pumping fee, what's being paid by the replenishment fee, and if there's anything outstanding that doesn't be covered by any of those fees. I notice it's not, so I have to assume that all of this is being paid by the pumping fee, except for the one that general manager mentioned, capital corporate. Is that a true statement that all these fall under the pumping fee? Can someone confirm that?
Roger?
That is my understanding from the pumping fee.
So I think it's a good idea. The next time we list this on the agenda, if we could have like just two separate columns. The only revenue we've got going on now, so obviously the answer is yes. But as we grow and get the replenishment fee going, we're going to have to articulate clearly each expenditure, whether it's one or the other.
Thank you. That's all I'm asking.
Thanks. Perfect. Appreciate it. And I'm looking for a motion and a second on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Do you want me to vote?
Yeah, they have to vote.
Okay. Vice Chair Hayman?
Aye.
Chairman Gleason?
Yes.
Director Kuczynski?
Yes.
Director Page?
Yes.
Director Vallejo?
Staff report in your packet. I'll just go over it briefly. Ordinance 0120 requiring the installation of use of reporting on metering equipment for groundwater extraction facilities in the Indian Wells Valley groundwater basin was adopted by the board March 19th, 2020. There are a couple of requirements in there that are specific to be addressed. One, of course, is the installation of the meter and a secondary measuring device, an hour meter. And the meters had to meet the specifications that were included in the ordinance that Stetson put together. That was supposed to have been completed by June 1st of 2020. Also, there's a requirement for testing of that equipment, and there were, I believe, 3 approved testing companies that were included in the ordinance. The testing was supposed to have been completed by August 1st of 2020. We brought this to the attention of the board at the September meeting. Board directed staff to draft a letter to go to all the registered non-de minimis pumpers. So a letter dated September 22nd, 2020 was mailed to all of the 36 registered non-de minimis groundwater pumpers that had not complied with one or both or all of the requirements of the ordinance as of the date of the letter. In response to the letter, we have received some, I believe, five emails from mutuals mostly, which I believe you've seen those emails, expressing concern about have provide you with a spreadsheet that shows the 5 emails and what how much they pay. I mean, just to be clear, most of them have been complying with the pumping fee. Their concern is the pumping fee went up from $30 per acre to $5 per acre. And some of these are paying at least 2 of the 5 emails that are only pumping basically less than 7 acre feet over 2 years. They're not pumping very much. In one case, one of the mutuals is 4 connections. All the those that are on that well are over 70 years in age, and they're saying they're struggling just to maintain their well. And with the increase in the pumping fee and the cost of complying with this ordinance is putting a strain on them. So we discussed this during the staff call, and as it says in the staff report, recognize the impact of the increased fee and the other costs associated with maintaining a well. We're recommending that the board reconsider perhaps a revision to the ordinance to allow some flexibility for these small mutuals that, number one, aren't pumping very much, and number two, that they are complying with the pumping fee, and just the recent increase and all the other costs of maintaining and operating their wells is putting a significant burden on them, and maybe allow some flexibility to within the ordinance in regards to those people. I think the purpose of the ordinance, of course, we want to make sure that the meters are accurate for those that are pumping a lot of water. Water districts, Hills Valley, Meadowbrook, all the farmers, but these small mutuals that in some cases are barely pumping over 2 acre feet. Maybe we should allow some flexibility. So we're asking the board to consider directing staff to look at making some revisions perhaps to the ordinance to allow for some flexibility for the smaller pumpers that have meters and they are reporting, but the cost of the testing. In some cases, it's the one response was it was going to cost them $2,000 to get their meters tested, and perhaps, if their meter isn't totally accurate, the small amount of water they're pumping is probably not significant.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate. We'll open it up for public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment on item number 7, meter compliance update? Looks like we got a caller. Caller, you're up. Caller?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, this is Joshua Nugent from Mojave Pistachios, and I would like to say that Mojave agrees with certain elements of Ordinance 1-20 as well as Resolution 2-20 warrant further consideration. Specifically, Mojave asks that the Authority Board implement the following changes to Ordinance 1-20 and Resolution 2-20. First of all, amend Ordinance 1-20 to reflect that an hour meter need not be installed if electric demand for each well can be tracked by separate means. For example, where electricity to each well is separately metered and all of the well curves and the other items that would be needed to calculate based on electric usage. Amend the list of acceptable meters set forth in Exhibit A of Resolution 2-20 to include other meters that meet industry standards for agricultural uses, including meters produced by Water Specialties Macrometer Incorporated. And then the third request would be to include Cal West Rain as an approved meter tester and installer. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Josh. We'll do that. Next, excuse me, hold on.
I'd like to respond I'd like to respond real quickly, if I could, to
Sure.
suggestions, because I think first off, I would say everything that he's suggesting, except for the last one, I'm not really sure on that one where that would go, but both of those could be addressed already if, in fact, you're somebody who wants to do so. We have a process in the metering ordinance where you could ask for concessions like this, and we did that for Meadowbrook. Meadowbrook has ag wells. Meadowbrook's wells are not going to meet the standards that are in ours, which are also for drinking standards, but those new drinking standards are also Kern County standards for wells moving forward. So we have allowed Meadowbrook to not have that standard for their older wells. I'm sure we would do the same for others if they had asked. I assume that would be the board's decision anyway. And third, if there's a separate electrical meter also, I think that would take care of our concern. I don't see either of those being a problem, and I wouldn't put them in the ordinance per se. I would ask somebody who wants those to come forward with what the ordinance has now and ask for the variance.
Thank you, sir. We'll incorporate those thoughts. We got a caller, and your caller's up.
Hello, this is Tom Brown with the Lahontan Regional Water Board. Can you hear me?
Hi, Tom.
Hello, Chairman Gleason. What is the volume definition of a de minimis pumper, please?
It's 2 acre-feet, but lawyer, how about Mr. Hall?
It's the statute of SGMA itself, 2 acre-foot residential use.
Per year?
Domestic, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. No more comments?
So I do have one more little
Yes, sir.
update. Just so we reported last month that we have 55 registered non-de minimis pumpers. I did want to report that we now have 38 that are known to have installed the flow meters. That's 2 more than last month. And those 2 were Heritage Village and Searles Valley Minerals. They have submitted their testing results. So we now have 4 that have submitted testing results. Also, as far as the there's also 2 more, Quist Farms and Simon's Farm,
Simmons.
Simmons Farms. They've been granted a variance due to the current or anticipated shutdown of their operations. So, just wanted to give you that update.
Thank you. So we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for comment and a vote.
Is there anything we need to vote on, or are we just looking for directions of staff to come back with recommendations if any modifications are needed to be made to the ordinance? Is that what we're asking?
Does it require a vote?
No, unless you want to add, and maybe we should just come back next board meeting. The request to add somebody else to do accuracy testing, we put together, and Steve put it together, we put together who we thought was in this vicinity. If we've missed somebody, they should obviously ask the board to be put on. The other two items, I don't think they need to be added. We've actually given variances on both of those. Pat Quista has a variance on the meter, the Hobbs meter. I believe we did a Hobbs meter on hers also. And Meadowbrook has it on the type of meter. So if Mojave Pistachio would like a variance, they can just ask for one, and we'll bring it forward next month.
Do we need a vote?
We do not need a vote for that.
Okay.
And with regards to the meter testing, and Jeff's on, I think he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Heritage provided accuracy tests that were not one of the three that were in the meter ordinance, and their results were accepted. Isn't that correct, Jeff?
They were by one of the testers, I believe, Don.
Oh, they were.
I think it was McCormick on that one.
He said it was one of the testers, I thought.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right, I was in there.
Okay, so we're done with item number 7, and we're going to item number 8.
Chairman Gleason?
Yes, please.
I think the original request on here is that the staff look at ways for some relief, possible relief for these small pumpers, the ones that, putting a meter on might be extremely costly. And so are we directing staff to go ahead and come back with the recommendations to how to help that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Number 8, board consideration and approval of resolution 07-20 establishing. Oh. Okay, number 7, we got a caller. Let's take the caller. Thank you. Caller, you're up.
Yeah, this is Renee Westolusk again. I just have a question on number 7. Are you going to resend another letter out to all the well owners that were not able to comply with the metering so they know that they can apply for the variance?
How are we going to pass out the information, Don?
Yeah, well, I know the letter stated that where they can get a copy of the ordinance, but whether or not they will look at that ordinance and see that they can request a variance, that's probably a far reach.
Could you please come back with the consideration of what Renee is saying when you come back with your recommendation?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. So we got a good answer. Renee, we got a good answer. That was a great question. Thank you. We're working on it. Okay, that closes us out for number 7. Number 8, board consideration approval of resolution 07-20 establishing a reporting policy for all new groundwater extraction wells in the basin. Bill.
This is an item that's been before the board before, and we pulled it off and didn't adopt it because, in particular, the Water District had a couple comments that it wanted to address. I think they were really non-substantive, but we've addressed them now also. Bottom line, this is actually a very simple policy. It says if you're coming into the basin now with a new well, there's some general processes you're going to follow. They're not overly harsh, and they give us the information that we're going to need moving forward for those wells, where it's located, how much its production is going to be. Obvious, all of the stuff we need to actually have a sustainability plan. That's bottom line. It's a pretty simple, straightforward policy. It has been to the PAC and TAC before. We don't think the changes have been substantively changed from their comments, but that's why it's up for adoption today by your board if you would like, or you could send it to the PAC and TAC. But I think it's not. I don't think there's any substantive changes that would need to go back to the PAC and TAC.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Let's open it for the public for comment on item number 8. Okay, I got the wave off from Gary, so that means nobody's calling in. So let's bring it back to the board for comment, consideration, and a vote. Oh, there is one. Okay. Oh, there is one. Okay. Caller, you're up.
Yes. Good morning. This is Elizabeth Esposito with Brownstein Hyatt Barbasheck. Good morning. I'm commenting on behalf of Mojave Pistachios and would suggest a few modifications to the resolution. So the first is that I note that the definition of new groundwater extraction wells extends to both the enlargement of existing wells in addition to reactivation of abandoned wells and construction of replacement wells. And so I propose that existing and replacement wells should be exempt from the resolution because they're not new wells coming into the basin. Would also like to reiterate the comments that we raised in June 2020 in our June 18th comment letter. And there we explained that we believe the definition of material injury was overly broad and didn't provide a valid standard by which the authority could attempt to deny an application for a new groundwater well or influence the county to deny an application. So as an example, the definition of material injury includes overdraft. And I believe this raises questions, for example, whether the authority would seek to deny construction of all new wells or enlargement of existing wells on the basis that DWR has designated the basin as subject to critical conditions of overdraft. Similarly, another question would be if more than 7,650 acre feet per year is pumped in the basin in any given year, does the authority consider overdraft to be occurring, and will it attempt to prohibit construction of a replacement well? Also, as raised in our prior comments, the resolution doesn't address Water Code Section 10726.4A2's requirement that actions to regulate, limit, or suspend extractions from groundwater wells shall be consistent with the applicable elements of the county general plan. So we think that that analysis should be added. And finally, 2 points. We note that Water Code Section 10726.4B doesn't grant a GSA well permitting authority unless that authority has been officially delegated by the counties overlying the basin. And I see no provision in SGMA that grants the GSA the authority to determine whether material injury is occurring or to require mitigation of material injury as a condition of well permit issuance. So we believe that the resolution's addition of this material injury analysis to the well permitting process is inappropriate and violates SGMA. And then finally, that same section, Water Code Section 10726.4B, does not compel counties to provide well permit applications to the authority. So we believe it's inappropriate and contrary to SGMA to mandate that the well permit applicants submit their application to the authority when SGMA does not compel counties to do the same. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Council, any thoughts?
I would simply say at first, 10726.4 is broad in and of itself, the authorities it gives this GA as it comes to wells. So we are adopting that broad definition and broad authority. As for repair is different than revitalization or a new well or a reactivated well. Obviously, if you have a well that hasn't been taking any water out of this basin and our groundwater sustainability plan and looks at cones of depression, et cetera, have not considered that well in the modeling, and now we've added that well, that would be something we need to know, and that's the whole purpose of this resolution and ordinance.
Thank you, sir. I think we have another caller. Caller, you're up.
Yes, Renee Westa Lusk. I just have a couple questions. One is, when you're talking about enlarging existing wells, you're talking about deepening or increasing the diameter. And then the other question I have is, this applies to all new wells, whether they're de minimis wells or non-de minimis, correct?
Okay, you have a engineering question and I think a legal question. So well, the legal's right here, so let's answer that.
I think I can answer both. The first is deepening and or widening of a well would both be covered by this because it's going to affect spacing concerns, which are in 10.7.2.6 because more water can come out of the well. And yes, it will affect de minimis, but again, it's more to let us know who's there. So if you're de minimis, you're de minimis, but we do need to know you're there, just like we are now registering de minimis wells already, so we know what our well portfolio is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Renee. Okay, we're done. So we'll bring it back to the board now for comment and consideration and a vote. Number 8, gentlemen.
I just want to say that I see the concerns of the district have been addressed here. I think this is a good thing, including it strengthens the fact that people need to register their wells, whether it's a replacement well, a new well, and so I support this. Thank you. Are we looking for a motion here, or are we just
Yes,
discussion?
whatever you want.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. That fella didn't do it. I'm looking for some here.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Hayman,
Aye.
Chairman Gleason,
Aye.
Director Kaczynski,
Aye.
Director Page,
Aye.
Director Vallejo.
Aye.
Number 9, board consideration and discussion of an optimized use of recycled water. Steve, you're up.
Chairman Gleason, this is Jeff Helsley. I think I'm going to lead this one.
Okay, Jeff. Okay, Jeff, thank you.
Okay. Yes, project number 2 in the approved groundwater sustainability plan is the optimization of the use of recycled water from the City of Ridgecrest wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant can provide up to 1,600 acre-feet a year of recycled water for new beneficial uses, while also meeting some of its existing uses of the effluent from the treatment plant, including the Navy's golf course and the Tui Chub habitat. If either of those uses are reduced or eliminated in the future, that make more than the 2,016 acre-feet per year available. You know, the benefits of using the recycled water, and these are baked into our groundwater sustainability plan, or it would help mitigate loss of groundwater storage, mitigate the declining water levels, help with protecting water quality and land subsidence, and support the community and the naval base. The city has offered to partner with the Groundwater Authority in a project to provide the untreated wastewater that would be needed for a recycled water project. The Groundwater Authority potentially would be responsible for the costs of the project beyond what the city is required to do to meet its current discharge permits, including design, construction, administration of additional treatment facilities if needed, and whatever facilities are needed to put it to beneficial use. If we could go to the next slide. Staff proposes that project implementation costs, we set up a program here where the project implementation costs would be paid monthly by the direct beneficiaries of the project through participation in a recycled water development program. The potential users of the recycled water are the Water District, Searles Valley Minerals. If these potential beneficiaries participated in the program, they'd be exempt from the basin replenishment fee, equal to an amount proportional to their program participation in the program. That is how much recycled water they might get from it. But they wouldn't be exempt from the mitigation fee. Instead of the replenishment fee, they'd instead pay the program costs, which, at least in the first phase, would be determining exactly what the preferred project is and having a design of that. At this point, the estimate is about $500,000 over 1.5 years. And if we look at the potential water that's available, which would be the basis also of the reduced pumping fees. The fee that would be created for this program would equate to about $158 an acre foot. Staff has discussed this and recommends that the Groundwater Authority partner with the city to initiate this program, and recommends that staff give direction to the board to bring back a contract for recycled water with the city and a resolution implementing this program.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Let's open for public comment.
Mick?
Yes, Steve, go ahead.
Mick,
Before
Steve.
public comment, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, I was muted there. I've been communicating with April. I just got unmuted. I just wanted to say quickly, thank you, Jeff, for doing that. I'm a little disadvantaged. I don't have all the material where I'm at, but I just wanted to say, for the board and for the audience generally, as you all know, recycled water is a component of our GSP, and the beneficial use of recycled water is an important component of the GSP. It's included in our modeling. It's included of all of our projections. So it is included. There is an opportunity for more recycled water than we actually modeled. So this is what we're talking about. And a bit of the confusion, I want to try and help with the confusion, a bit of the confusion about how recycled water is going to be addressed in this basin is because the facility, the recycled water, the treatment facility that produces recycled water is owned and operated by the city. GA has no control over that, so there's been a lot of discussion about whether the water district or Cyril's or groundwater replenishment or the groundwater authority, how it should pull together. And I think everybody's been very careful not to step in each other's feet because the city does own and operate the facility. But I think everybody's on the same page now that the best place to manage the recycled water coming out of that plant now and in the future is through the Groundwater Authority, through a management agency working very closely with the city, the water district, and Cyril's. And if anybody else has a good use for that water, we certainly look at that. But I think the approach is that it's extremely important that we make full beneficial use of that recycled water that's produced by that plant in order to help facilitate our getting sustainability and ability to demonstrate to the outside agencies that we are taking care of our own water supplies in the basin before we start looking for supplies outside the basin. So I think this is a huge step to moving forward the recycled water project for beneficial use in the basin. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Public, let's open it up. Caller, you're up.
Yes, thank you. This is Joshua Nugent on behalf of Mojave Pistachios.
Hi, Josh.
And Mojave supports the opportunities to optimize the use of recycled water, but objects to the authority's proposals that, like its other programs, favor only certain water users. As raised in Mojave's prior comments, it is unfair that select water users are granted an annual pumping allocation that should be allowed to pump some of all of their allocation for free. It's also unfair that some of the users granted an allocation should also have the opportunity to avoid payment of most of the replenishment fee by paying only $158.75 per acre foot, while other water users must pay the full $2,130 per acre foot replenishment fee. Through its allocation scheme, the IWV GA has picked winners and losers in violation of SGMA, the Constitution, and California water rights. Additionally, the program proposal outlined by the staff report states that the initial cost of the program will be based on the cost of producing a design for the recycled water system. But several questions remain, namely, what additional costs would be involved in the actual production of recycled water, and would recycled water be served directly to customers or used to recharge the basin? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Josh. Any comments from legal? Okay, thank you.
You might ask Keith.
Keith, do you have any comments about Mr. Nugent's comments?
Yes, I do. The limitation on users is something that the city is requesting as a condition of the agreement. It's not a condition that's being imposed by the GA. As far as how the water would be used, whether directly or through recharge, that's something that we would have to develop through the program we would be looking at the most cost-effective way to use the water.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Yes, this is Judy Decker.
Hi, Judy.
Hi. I have some questions. First of all, you passed a replenishment fee in August. The public's understanding is this replenishment fee is to purchase the rights to imported water. Imported water is an iffy thing at best. And if you are not going to collect money to buy those imported water rights, where is the money going to come from to do that? And by telling the water district and Sills Valley Minerals if they use the sewer water treated, that they won't have to pay replenishment fees, we aren't going to have enough money to buy those water rights, in my opinion. That's one question. The other question is basically, I guess, for Mr. Heyman. The city has been collecting sewer fees from the residents of the sewer for years and now has quite a large collection of dollars that is supposed to be in an account for rebuilding the sewer facility or building a treatment plant. What's going to happen to all that money that's been collected?
And
I have grave concerns that the money you have said you needed so badly, which I can understand 100%, for buying imported water, is going to be used for something else. And we need that imported water, no matter how you slice it and dice it, unless you have all of the sleeve, close down the base. We need that imported water. The longer we wait, the more expensive it's going to be. Those are my comments.
Thank you, Judy. Appreciate it. Let's talk to Mr. Heyman first, and then we'll pass up to Phil to explain the imported other replenishment fee. Scott.
So it's my understanding that the monies that have been collected from for the wastewater treatment facility will be used for that facility. So I don't think, I'm not sure what the.
Thank you, sir. Bill.
To answer sort of a little bit of two questions here, the city's use and what it does with the wastewater takes it half of the way. It doesn't take it the full way. We're going next door, and it's going the full way down the road to getting it to where you can use that water. And if you needed to import 5,000 acre-foot of water, I'm just use round numbers here that are in our ballpark. If you needed to import 5,000 acre-foot of water, but you had a supply that we're able to find of 2,000 acre-foot of water that would allow us to lower our import need from 2,000 or from 5,000 to 3,000, that's what this is. And we presume, and there's good reasons to presume, that this will be cheaper than buying import supply. But we also should realize and remember that the replenishment fee is volumetric. So if you need 1,000 acre-foot or 100,000 acre-foot, I probably shouldn't say that. There's not that much coming out of the Delta. If you need 1,000 or you need 10,000, the dollar stays the same because it's a volumetric charge that is proportional. So this is really not about whether or not the fee goes up or down. This is about whether or not you need to bring in 5,000 or 3,000 acre-foot of water.
Good answer. Okay, any other calls? We have another call? Yes. Next caller, please. Caller, you're up.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is Derek Hoffman.
Hi, Derek.
From Meadowbrook. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Morning. Some comments. Meadowbrook, as you may know, has long advocated for maximizing the use of recycled water in the basin, but just have a few questions about the report that was presented today. The first question is, where are the spreading grounds located that are mentioned in the fourth paragraph of the report? The second question is, what is the projected cost of the recycled water itself? I believe we've seen some estimates at the Water District of around $2,300 per acre foot. But I'm asking if that is also the authority's estimate of the cost of that recycled water. And then my last question is, and I think Steve may have commented on this, but just for clarity, to what extent is the proposed recycled water development program, in the way that it's described specifically in this report, reflected in the GSP assumptions and the modeling work that was previously completed? So, for example, spreading versus injection. The question is whether and to what extent that's been considered so far. So those are my questions. Hope to hear some answers on those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. We're going to get those to you. Steve, do you have any comments? Steve Johnson.
Jeff's online too. I know Jeff. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can. Okay. I know Jeff's on the line. He probably has some stuff to say too. Derek, yes, the recycled water component was included in the modeling, but to the extent that we knew of at the time, which was about 1,450 acre feet for various uses. So we used it for direct irrigation. We had some direct injection. So we did use it in the modeling. And for example, if we used it for direct irrigation on, for example, city property, then we obviously reduce the amount of pumping by the city if we were applying the recycled water for that use. So yes, we use, but is it modeled in based upon the current information? Not completely, because now we are looking at somewhere around 2,000, maybe 2,200 acres, somewhere in that area available for beneficial uses. So yes, it's included, but it should be, eventually it's going to get updated when we decide how we're going to use this. I think you had another question about cost. It's a very, very good question, Derek, and the best answer I can give you is the numbers that we have in the GSP are different than the numbers the Water District just presented this week. And there's some significant differences, but there's significant differences in approach. But here's the most important thing I would like to take away from our cost numbers on recycled water is I think the authority believes, I'm pretty sure the Water District also believes, there is a tremendous opportunity to get outside funding for a beneficial use recycled water project. So the numbers we have put together have assumed no grant funds, no outside money coming in to help us with this project. And we know there is good money out there for beneficial use of recycled water. I don't think the Water District numbers include outside money, but I honestly, since it just came, I have not had a chance to look through that report in any detail. But the reality is the numbers we are seeing right now for recycled water are very high. But we also believe there is a very, very good chance we can bring those numbers down with outside funds. So I don't know if, Jeff, you wanted to add to that?
I want to add, this is Jeff Hulsley with Stetson. I had a couple of things. Derek had asked where the spreading grounds are that are referenced in the staff report. The GSP had looked at spreading grounds out in the western part of the basin, generally in the Inyo-Kern area. We aren't wedded to that. This program that we're proposing with the city isn't wedded to that location. That's one of the things we'll look at. I think we'd like to look at other options. One of the costs in the city's program was there's quite a bit of pipeline to get recycled water out to a location where they thought they could do injection. The conditions were favorable. We'd like to look and see if there aren't closer locations to reduce some of that cost. Might be some issues with other areas to recharge, get other benefits and reduce costs, and also look at potentially taking tertiary water out to where we were proposing a spreading ground to recharge. That is, we wouldn't have to do advanced treatment. It's a long pipeline to get out to where we think we could do surface spreading, but it eliminates the need for advanced treatment, which is very expensive for both capital and very expensive for operating. So that's why in the GSP it talks about our project as optimization project. We want to try and come up with the best project that makes use of all the water, and hopefully we can get a lower cost project.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Mr. Hall.
Thank you. Derek, those are all very good questions, and sometimes the English language is not as precise as we would like. When we're talking about design here, we're not talking about design of exactly what the contours are of your perk pond or what the treatment facility is. And I don't want to say business plan either, but it's somewhere in between there. We are trying to design something, and with this, that will tell us what is the best, most economical, optimized use of the recycled water. And there's obviously a couple, as we've already talked about here: direct injection, perk, use on parks. We want to refine the GSP's design to get to a cost estimate, so then we can make a more long-term decision on what we're going to do with this valuable asset.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Hello, this is Tom Brown again with the Lahana.
Tom, can you speak up a little bit?
Hang on, let me mute my. Hang on, please. I got to mute the meeting. Sorry, I'm trying to hear. This is hard. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Chairman Gleason, for taking my call. My question is for the Stetson engineers. I would like to see a detailed calculation of that $500,000 figure. It's time that Water Board staff take a closer look at all of these estimates and know just how realistic they are. Also, and this is an opinion, but the question of recharge, whether it's a recharge pond or an injection well, I think to reclaim what we're asking for here, I think every cost estimate should compare the two explicitly. The recharge is the favorable one because it's hot there. You're going to lose a lot to evaporation if you don't. And this number that they're claiming, 2016 acre feet, that is very close to the Navy's annual need. And I would like them to look into toilet to tap. I know there's going to be people giggling and people frowning, but the Navy could be a leader here. $500,000, that's not much to them. And if this could satisfy their needs, it would take them out of this fight. Because right now what we see is three powerful people squaring off as to who's going to pay for all this. Well, actually four. Sorry, Don, I forgot you. Indian Wells Valley Water District. Take the Navy out of the fight. That's my comment. That's my question. Thank you.
Good comments, Tom. Thank you very much. Next caller. Caller, you're up.
Yes. This is Mike Neal. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mike. Good morning.
Okay. Yes. Okay, I wanted to offer my input on the recycled water and the thing that's been said this morning. The people in this valley, the vast majority of whom are comprised of customers of the water district, and I believe it's been stated about 90% of the water users in this valley, we do not want the GA running the recycled water plant, designing it, paying for it, and turn around and charging people for that money. We want the water district to get that plant up and going and run it and use the water for our use. You can, of course, always pull your lawyers in and say, once it's down the pipe, it belongs to somebody else. But that water comes from primarily the water district users, and the recycled water should be for the use of the water district customers. Now, they already have paid money to a consultant to get a conceptualized plan. They're further down the road than the GA is, and best reason for the water district to run this plant and get the use of the water is that they're the only elected entity in the valley who's elected to take care of their people's water needs. The GA is a self-appointed body, and they have two members on it that hardly even have any people in this valley. Obviously, they don't really care very much. The INEO guy it made it clear that his only reason for being on the board is to make sure that nobody in this valley gets any water out of the aqueduct. So, he's not helpful at all. That's 1 out of 5, and we want people who are elected to take care of our water needs, and we want this plant to be run by the water district. It's plain and simple. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We have another caller. Carl, you're up.
Yes, this is Renee Westelusk. I just wanted to know. If the rest of the board members, besides the Water District Representative Ron Kaczynski, if they all know about the Water District's presentation at their meeting on Tuesday night with the consultant describing the recycled water plan idea. Thank you.
Okay, I can answer for me. Yes, I am aware, unfortunately. Scott, were you aware of the?
I am aware also.
John and Bob?
I'm generally aware.
Oh, Mr. Page has signed off at 2 minutes ago, Renee. I can't get you that one. 12 o'clock, Mr. Page, you have to leave.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. No more calls, so let's bring it back to the board for comment and consideration and thoughts.
All right. I'm going to go first since a lot of it came our way. First of all, I want to say this, is that the district is committed to utilizing the wastewater treatment, the wastewater. We understand the city is basically in control. I mean, it's their water. They can write the contract they want to write. And if they want to bring the GA in, that's their entire right to do it. I believe that the GA is needed because it's really a new water source, if that's what you want to call it. So from the aspects of how the water is used and where it goes, absolutely. I also want to say that we're committed to working with Stetson. I think what we want to find is what is the most cost-effective operation and cost-effective solution. And I think we'll be able to do that. We're not trying to do anything outside the purview of what the GSP says. Please understand that. Although I do believe that the water district is probably the best one to build and operate it. Because someone's got to operate. And I think we said before, we don't want the GA to become an operator of water facilities. With that said, let's understand that the estimates that are being done, that we've asked to be done, is so the district as a whole can get an idea that if, in fact, we were the only ones that were interested in taking this water, how would we handle it, what would it cost us, and what will we do? I do agree with Steve that our cost estimates are different, but there are different philosophies in there, but we will come together to come out with the best philosophy of how we're going to handle this. I think it's important that every idea is put on the table to keep the cost down, the most efficient operation. I do believe the water district has an advantage because if you looked at the presentation about the location of how we would treat the water, only a 9-mile pipeline to an area where we already have a well that we could possibly modify for injection or use for one of the monitoring wells required by state, by the DWR. So we have some things in place, but the cost estimates took into account that we'd have all new wells, all new monitoring wells, and was probably conservative on the cost. We do believe that the best point of recovery is re-injection. We think there's too much loss in a spreading pond, but that might change. I agree with Steve. This is very preliminary, but I do feel that the cost would be borne by the participants and users, I should say the users of the wastewater. So if in fact the wastewater, an agreement was made with the city, Searles Valley, and the water district, that we would share proportionally, maybe not the city as much, but the two who would be using the water would share proportionally in the cost of building and possibly operating the plant. Keep in mind that Searles Valley has made come forward about using the water as only as a secondary treated water, where we're looking at is completely treated with advanced treatment. So it may be that the water district bears more of the cost of building and operating. But we do understand that. And I believe someone asked about the estimate costs from the district. Those did not include potential grants that were out there. Steve, you mentioned, I'm sure there's going to be money available out there for the infrastructure and also low-cost money and such. But what we're trying to do at the district is understand that if for some reason that we're responsible for collecting all the wastewater treatment, then what can we expect as a district? I don't want to imply that we're not going to work with Stetson. and I don't want to imply that we're not going to work with the GA. But I do feel that when it comes into the design phase, whoever is going to be operating and managing this thing should be greatly involved in that, whether it be their own design company or Stetson, whatever deal is made. There's a lot of deals to be made here. So what I'm saying is I support what we're doing here. I think we need to move forward to bring back something to the board, adopting some kind of a program or resolution. And there are details to be worked out like in everything else. So I want to make that clear that as a district, we're not fighting the GA. We understand the importance of the wastewater, and we have for years. And we appreciate that the city is now moving forward. I hope we can solve this before the end of the year, because I think some of the things offered here in terms of reducing the replenishment fee and the amounts are advantageous to our ratepayers. And to move ahead as quickly as we can in this, I would like to see it happen. I think there was a question about the GA telling the city who they can provide the water to or not. In my opinion, it's up to the city. I mean, it's their water. It's what they have. How they want to divide it, use it, because if they want to involve the GA in the contract, that's up to them. I think I've been quoted before as saying the Navy was in a driver's seat. I'm not sure that's a direct quote, but however, I want to say here that the city in this particular point this is their sewage treatment plant, and what happens with the wastewater is they want to make it as advantageous for the community as the water district does. So I am supportive of moving ahead with this, but there's details that will come out in the works about who's paying for what, who's operating what. I want to make sure we keep our eye on that ball. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Scott, any thoughts? I got a couple questions. How is the city and the Navy successfully negotiated? Are they complete with their negotiations, or where are we with that?
In regards to
the recycled water treatment plant?
The treatment plant. We will be discussing that at the council meeting next week, and things are looking very promising.
Cool.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So, and with that, I think the city, we've made our position pretty clear on wanting to partner with the GA in the wastewater, and so with the concerns that we have a solid partner that how can I put it, that keeps things intact for the city. And so concerns would be if we have 2 or 3 who's controlling it or who's running it. If they decide not to participate anymore, is it going to fall back on to the city or fall back onto the GA? And so I think one of the big concerns with the city is a solid, stable platform with which to operate and move that water from the plant out to whoever the most beneficial uses are, and then working out the finer details with that. I think that is part of what we're working on with this resolution, and so.
Thanks, Mr. Heyman. One of the things Renee asked was I aware of the brief presentation last night, and I said regretfully yes. The reason I said that is I thought it was unfortunate, and I want to understand a little better. It was unfortunate in the sense that the public became aware that the water district was involved in developing a plan. Is according to Mr. Kaczynski, if they were the ones who got the water, how would they manage it? And they were exploring options. Innocent enough. But the public doesn't know that. And the public watched and could easily infer that some type of deal has been made, and maybe Searles could infer that some deal had been made, and that's what's causing the water district to take actions they took in studying this. Could you comment from the city's perspective, is there any deal that's been made with the city, between the city and the water district? I just want the public to be crystal clear.
No, no, there has not been any deals
Do you want
made.
me to weigh in?
Yeah, Mr. Lemieux, go for it.
We're still discussing the issue with both Searles and the water district, and the proposal you have in front of you is consistent with those discussions.
Thank you. So I can take from that, being a member of the public, if I was to be a member of the public, that there has been no favored relationship decision one way or another, and Searles can sit back and relax and understand what they're seeing in front of them now is the facts, and understand what Mr. Kaczynski said was accurate, that they were exploring, innocently enough, and we have a consistent message that we're putting out to Searles and to the water district and to the entire community as to what our projected plan will look like. So I'm very thankful for that. Mr. Hall, could you talk to me? I'm concerned about this in the sense that, forgive my rude or seemingly rude comments, but I just don't want to, it's a mess. It's a mess. And I don't want the GA to expose itself to something we don't have to expose ourselves to. I'd rather not do that. So what are we building into this? And I'm not saying it's a mess because of any city or anybody's response. I'm saying it's a challenging situation.
It's a sewer plant. They're messes.
So what precautions and what are we doing as a GA if we were to agree with the city to come into some facilitating role with managing and helping them design and all that kind of stuff and make decisions on where that water goes? What protections do we have in place to prevent us from undue exposure?
Well, right now we have none because we haven't written the contract, but I can tell you as we're preparing the contract to bring back next month, considering that sewer plants are in fact a mess, we will make sure that there are opt-out provisions in it for the GA if this doesn't pencil out, and numerous other provisions in there that make this thing work. If this thing does, the whole idea here is we're going to spend, we think, about $500,000 to come up with a conceptual design to optimize this use. And because of all the players involved, it seems like this is the best place to do that. We have Stetson who can help us with that. It's part of the GSP. So that's sort of the general overall arching thought. And this isn't committing anybody other than to putting together a design, an optimized design process, not an architectural draft, but an optimized design process of how we can use that water and what is the best economical use given the parties that need to use it.
Thanks. So Tom brought up a real good point. I forget Tom's last name about a breakdown of that $500K. I think that will come forward when we have a better understanding of the design details. And you said Mr. Johnson, as Stetson Engineer, is going to provide the design work for us. Is that the proposal going to look like?
The proposal would be for Steve to be the engineer doing it, and there's no way of coming up to a solid figure right now on what that design could be. I mean, it could be $10,000 if we find out this thing isn't going to work real quick, but it could be more. And part of that would be that the parties that Cyril's in the water district, there seem to be the two parties here, they will be an integral part, not just in paying for this, but in the design. I mean, this isn't going to be something that Steve goes off and puts together and brings forward. He's going to have ongoing input from them. This is a collaborative process we're trying to put together.
I'm really glad to hear that. I think we need to build more of that across the board in everything we do as a GA. As a young organization, we need to build partnerships between and amongst ourselves, all focused to the success and the best interests of this community. I believe that the concept of supporting the city and helping them to facilitate the process to design and then put forth some type of proposal for them to make decisions on how they're going to manage their water and how we're going to do that within the context of the needs of this community as a whole, I think is a wholesome thing, and I'm supportive of it, and I'm going to vote, if a vote is required, to support this effort and to optimize, in an effort to optimize that vital 2,000 acre-feet of water. Did you want to say something, or you?
I was just going to say, we're asking for direction today. I would like direction on this through a vote, but there is no solid proposal in front of you. It's really to tell us to start moving forward with a contract and a resolution at the next board meeting.
Let's see if we can do that without a vote. If we can do that without a vote and you feel satisfied you have direction by the end of the conversation, maybe we can do that. Ron, did you have something to say?
If you let me one more point, then I'll move on.
Please do.
Go ahead. Yes, I think you make a very good point that, we tried as best we could during the water district meeting to make the people understand that there's other parties involved here. And we need to understand that there's negotiations that are going to take place between the city and Sales Valley and the water district and the GA. That's all going to happen. If they didn't hear that, they didn't hear that. I'm sorry, but I'm glad you reiterated, Mr. Gleason, because it's very true. I want to say about the $500,000 estimate or so. People need to understand. We had people at the district are saying, well, how about the electric costs? What are we going to do with this? They're trying to drill down into the fine details of the design. Everyone needs to understand what's going to happen here is we're going to come out with a conceptual design that we all agree on that will satisfy the best needs of this valley. And then once that's agreed on, then the time now becomes is how do we drill down into the detailed engineering? I mean, there's got to be, if we're going to inject, there's got to be some well testing done in ground. There's all kinds of bits and pieces of such. I'm sure Steve can attest to that we have to be done before we get off the ground for detailed design. So I want people to understand what we're looking at here is the conceptual design and the final agreement between the people who are going to own and operate this. Thank you.
Chairman Gleason, I'd like to say a couple things when it's appropriate.
Please, Keith, go ahead.
So what we're requesting from you today is direction so that we can go back and do the work to prepare the legal documents. So this isn't a final decision today. But what should come back to you in the near future, and you know, obviously this needs to be in place before January 1st to do the maximum amount of good. So we'll presumably be bringing something back next meeting if you direct us to do so. And that would be a contract and some kind of resolution or other document that sort of outlines the program. So there'll be details in those documents that we'll go through, and we're going to work on with staff on those things. But I wanted to say a couple things up front just to make it clear so everybody understands. Number one, the city provided direction to me that the water is to be put for the benefits of the citizens. That's why it's limited to the water district in Searles, because a lot of employees of Searles live in the city. And so that's the uses that the city was concerned with, number one. Number two, they've directed that we do this collaboratively through the GA, meaning the city asked me to reach out and involve Searles and the water district as well as the GA, and that's how we've been handling this. So that collaboration ideally will continue through this design process, as Phil has mentioned, and that's what we're looking to do, and that should be reflected in the documents that we'll eventually produce. I've got to bring back whatever contract we develop. I also have to put that in front of the city council, and there'll be some discussion there too. But I can tell you that the staff report and the general outline of the proposal is consistent with the direction I've gotten. So I would expect that there shouldn't be any particular issues. But again, you know, like you guys, will have public comment and we'll receive that. And so that will be part of the process as well. I think those are the items I wanted to touch on.
Thank you, Keith. Any other thoughts? Does staff feel that they have sufficient direction on how to proceed? Phil, let's start with you.
I feel we have sufficient direction. Does the board think they've given us sufficient direction? I think I know where we're moving forward, but we also have two other board members, unless they have anything to add.
I just recalled the other point I wanted to make, if you'll allow me.
Please.
This goes to Ron's question about who operates it. The city is open to that discussion through the process, and we'll just, you know, this is going to be part of what we're going to discuss. So I don't take the suggestion that they may want to operate it instead of the GA as a hostile act. That's exactly the kind of discussion that we're inviting to take place. So, you know, I don't know where the ball will land on that, but that's the kind of discussion we should be having.
Agreed, in a timely fashion. Well, timely in the fact that we're all doing this together, and no one's getting too far out in front of anything. We're all working together. Bob or John, any thoughts?
Bob's out, obviously. I don't have any additional thoughts. I'll look forward to the conversation next meeting.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Ms. Page isn't there. Thank you very much. So I feel we've given sufficient direction.
I agree.
Other members, do you feel you've given?
I
How about
agree.
you, John? You feel that we've given board sufficient direction?
Staff.
Yeah.
given to the staff, and the staff feels they've got it?
We'll have something for you next meeting.
Loud and clear. Outstanding. Thank you very much. Let's move on. Number 10, board consideration and discussion of a following valuation and potential for a transfer market in the transient pool. Steve.
This is Jeff again. I was waiting to see if Steve wanted to make an introductory comment, but I'll go over the presentation and.
Thank you, Jeff.
I was muted, Jeff, but I'm good now. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. And I'm not sure if we have the slide up for this one yet or not. So I'll begin.
Yes, we do.
There it is. Okay, thank you. The board approved a transient pool and fallowing program, as well as allocating the transient pool at its board meeting on August 21st of 2020. There have been transient pool members who have expressed interest in participating in the fallowing program, which means they can sell all or a portion of their transient pool allocation back to the GA in exchange for a price that would be negotiated. Since we've got interest and it looks like we need to move forward with this, staff believes that we're going to need some standards and guidelines about how to implement this as we go forward. One of those considerations is the GA's cash flow. We could go to the next slide. So in considering those things, staff's come up with 4 recommendations. One of those is there's 51,000 acre-feet in the transient pool. So to address potential cash flow issues, staff recommends that the purchase of the fallowing water be limited to no more than 1,000 acre-feet per year per participant in the fallowing program. Recommendation number 2 is that the board formally adopt a policy that the transient pool water rights may be transferred among the transient pool members. We've had several people express interest in that. And further, that the board consider permitting transient pool water to be transferred to non-members of the transient pool, provided that the recipients put the water to agricultural uses on lands in the basin. Staff also recommends that the board direct development of a waiver of liability so that along with participation in the transient pool and being paid for the fallowing program, that whoever enters in the fallowing program agrees to waive rights for any actions against the GA or the GSP, and finally that the fallowing program be limited to a period of 10 years, after which time the board can consider whether they want to extend that or not.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I think at this time we'll open it up to public comment.
Public comment. Thanks. Okay, we got no calls for the public comment, so we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Gentlemen. I think we got a call. Let's hold on for a second. Caller, you're up.
Yes, good afternoon. This is Elizabeth Esposito, again on behalf of Mojave Pistachios.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. So we'd like to say that, as reflected in our prior comments, Mojave has always advocated for the transferability of transient pool allotments. So we believe that this policy proposal is a step in the right direction from what was approved in the GSP and the transient pool and fallowing program. But there are some necessary changes to the proposal that we ask the board to consider. The first is that we believe conditioning participation in a transient pool transfer on a waiver of liability is illegal for reasons including that it's an unconstitutional condition. We believe a water user should not be asked to sign away their legal rights to challenge the GSP and the implementation actions to receive a transfer of transient pool water. We also believe that it's inappropriate just now 2 months after adoption of the transient pool and fallowing program to cap participation in the fallowing program to 1,000 acre-feet per year. This seems like a bait and switch for folks that participated in the adoption process of the program in August. It also emphasizes the comment raised by Mojave and others through the summer of 2020, urging the GA to slow down instead of rushing forward to adopt the replenishment fee and transient pool and fouling program and ask important questions like how will the fouling program be funded. We also believe that given the constantly shifting changes to the transient pool and fouling program, that potential buyers do not have sufficient certainty to be able to invest in the purchase of transient pool rights if they are made transferable. And we believe, as articulated in prior comments, that those transient pool rights were illegally established in the first place and fail to recognize users' common law water rights. Finally, I'll add that Mojave objects to the process that the staff report admits was used to determine transient pools and pumping allocations. For example, the staff report says that each party's share of the transient pool was determined pursuant to the same principles of water law used to establish the annual pumping allocations. So in other words, the authority admits that it has made determinations about water rights held by each pumper granted a transient pool allotment and each pumper granted an annual pumping allocation, and that it has also made a priority determination vis-a-vis those users and others that were not granted an allocation under either scheme. We believe this decision-making process violated SGMA and Mojave's constitutional rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We'll get to those questions momentarily, those issues. Carl, you're up.
Hi, good afternoon. At this point, Derek Hoffman, attorney for Meadowbrook. Can you hear me? Hi. We have some comments on this. Again, representing Meadowbrook Dairy, which, as you know, is the largest eligible potential transient pool participant. And we received the staff report about 24 hours ago. We've not had a chance to thoroughly evaluate it, but we do have some comments that we urge the board to consider in order for this program to eventually be successful. The first is transferability within the pool does seem to be a step in the right direction. Second, transferability to agricultural entities outside the pool is interesting and also helps potentially broaden the local transfer market. So that appears to also be a step in the right direction. But Meadowbrook urges that the program must also allow for transferability to non-agricultural entities outside the pool. This is necessary to make the market robust enough to work, especially if there are issues with funding the program, as the authority is now indicating, just 2 months after adopting the program. It's also a way to potentially solve multiple water use challenges in the basin by helping to meet the needs of other large pumpers. As an example, transferability of transient pool water outside the pool could fill a necessary gap in pumping needs during the development and implementation of your recycled water project. And as noted by others, the board received multiple comment letters on the program back in August from Meadowbrook, from Searles, from Mojave, and others, all calling for the broad transferability of this water. So again, we would urge the board include transferability to non-agricultural entities outside the pool as well. There's also a few elements in this report that are quite concerning to Meadowbrook because they severely limit the program and make it less attractive and also comprise significant changes. So briefly, I'll run through those quickly. The first is limiting the authority's purchases to 1,000 acre-feet per pumper per year, and limiting the program to 10 years effectively places a cap at 10,000 acre-feet, which is less than 1/3 of the Meadowbrook allotment. The change to potentially eliminating the fallowing program due to lack of funding is also concerning, to say the least. The reference in the report to transferring water rights rather than allotments is an interesting change in terminology from the program that also raises questions. And, the concepts in the staff report are significant, substantive changes that depart materially from the transient pool and fouling program that the authority adopted by way of a resolution back in August. And of course, any amendments to the program would also need to be made by resolution. My last few points are that, as you know, Meadowbrook has a litigation tolling agreement in place with the authority and remains interested in exploring the transient pool and fouling program. But as you've noted on other matters today, the time is running short. January 1 will be here before we know it. And this program requires negotiations to occur. Meadowbrook reached out to the authority several weeks back to engage in substantive discussion as requested under the program, and we followed up several times. We are awaiting a response from the authority, and we're awaiting meaningful negotiations to occur. We'd like those to occur really soon. The authority needs to engage Meadowbrook, which is the largest potential participant here, before making any substantive changes to the program, and the staff report appropriately recommends taking input from all the potential transient pool participants as well. So in closing, there are ways to improve the program to address the issues that have been raised by Meadowbrook, by the Water District, and other large pumpers that would also benefit the basin as a whole, but those discussions need to happen now, and we look forward to those discussions, and we wait to hear back from the authority to explore the program and how it might be successful. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate it. Who's our point man for getting back to Derek? Is that Jim Markman?
Jim is
that's me.
Jim and me. I have talked to Derek recently and have not been able to add anything further to my last discussions with Derek because of
other issues. Okay.
Other issues.
Okay. So I'm just concerned. I hear his urgency in action and time, and I want to satisfy that.
And I will say also, this part of what we're seeing right here is directly in relation to Derek's request for transferability.
Good.
So.
Outstanding. I think there might be another call.
Maybe.
I think Derek's still on the line.
Oh, Derek. He's off. Okay. Caller, you're up.
Mr. Chairman, I think Jim Markman was trying to add something.
This is Judy Decker again.
Okay, Judy, go ahead, Judy. I'll talk to Jim Markman in a minute. Judy, go ahead.
Okay. I have a concern, and my concern is the things you are discussing here are actually changing what you have in your GSP. The state has not yet approved the GSP, as far as I know, and are these changes going to be added as an addendum to the GSP, and how does that work as far as approval of it? And I have another comment that I should have made earlier. You are discussing, and actually did, of course, at your August meeting in particular, things that are vital to this community, both in a future water supply and in money spent. And I believe that you need to do everything you can to have the next meeting be a public meeting. I note that I read in the paper that the city was going to have a committee meeting on a future pool presentation at the Kerr-McGee Center so that people could sit the required distance apart. I believe it is vital for this community to have public participation, and you need to see what you can do. And I would even go so far as to say to go against whatever the governor has as his rules for the week of the next meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And I'm going to pass off to Mr. Markman because I realize I made a real dumb question about who the point man was. I know it was you, Jim, but go ahead and speak. Jim Markman.
Okay. I think something needs to be said with all of these comments and criticisms of these programs as we go through the process. So all of us, we've been directed to negotiate in good faith with people we're litigating with or could litigate with, which are very small in number and are populated by some of the best water lawyers in the state. And so we're trying to do that. But every time this board takes an action that's a compromise, basically, an attempt to find a way to get satisfaction with respect to all these litigants and potential litigants, someone gets up in front of you, some of these very good lawyers get up in front of you and say, this is unconstitutional, this is against SGMA, you can't determine water rights, or something like that, as if, well, here we're struggling to put all these people in a better position so we can essentially solve their problem and go forward. And yet, whichever way you turn, it's going to be deemed or characterized to be unconstitutional or illegal. So a few things ought to be said, particularly while some of these great lawyers' clients are listening. The first thing I'll say is there is nothing in SGMA that requires this board to allow 1 drop of water, 1 acre-foot of water to be continued to be mined or taken out of the basin over and above the determined safe yield, period. There is no requirement that you have to continue mining. In fact, the mining of the basin is considered a negative impact. So, yes, most people do allow some continued mining, but because there's water in storage doesn't mean that you have to satisfy the financial needs of pumpers by allowing them to continue to do that. So the transient pool doesn't even have to exist. There's no legal compulsion to do that. You could have created a cliff and said, once our plan is approved by DWR, everybody's done mining. And then you have to allocate water that can continue to be pumped. And while you can't determine water rights, you still have to allocate according to your best understanding of who has the superior water rights, all of which can be litigated. And so here we have a basin where just the de minimis producers and the Navy can really identify with certainty the fact they would have the right to continue to pump water. If the board said, we're done mining this basin, we only have 4 times the safe yield being produced every year, we're done with it. Nobody's trying to do that. We're trying to create ways to soften the blow, ameliorate those kind of impacts, and even to some pumpers who might run out of water rights, who need to exist because of employers in the community to find a way to get them in on a permanent leave them in on a permanent basis. It is not required that the city have a recycled water program. It is not required that the city cannot choose the people who can have access to their recycled water. That's up to the city. The city's doing this for all the reasons I just mentioned, to make this work, to make this practically work. And so with all the lawsuits that are filed and all the rest, you can delay, you can send this back and forth, but unless somebody thinks that they have a superior water right that will survive the point where you reach safe yield, then, they should be doing the same thing we are, which is looking for a way for solutions to these issues. So everything is illegal, everything's unconstitutional, except this board's not compelled to let anybody pump 1 drop of water more than the safe yield offers, and the other public entities involved are not compelled to do anything either. So I just think that point, people keep that point in mind. We're keeping it in mind when we go negotiate with these lawyers, and we'll continue to do so. Or we can go defend litigation for 2 or 3 years, and then, as I said, the first time I saw everybody in this matter, we can do 2 or 3 years of litigation and then come back and have the same conversation. So I just wanted to make that point, Mick, because I know I'm not trying to be harsh in responding to all these criticisms. I just thought that point had to be made.
Thank you, Jim. I agree. I appreciate your comments. I don't see any other public comments, so I'm waving that off and bring it back to the board for comment discussion on item number 10. Board consideration, discussion of valuation and potential for transfer market and transient pool.
Chairman Gleason?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Chairman, I have a comment when it's appropriate.
Okay, Keith, why don't you wait? You'll be second.
I just have one question, and it even goes to what it came from one of the attorneys that called in. The item number 2 under staff recommendations, provided that the recipients put the water to agricultural use. In other words, we're saying we can go outside the members of the transient pool, but it specifically says agricultural use. I was going to ask Steve or Jeff who presented this, or why is that statement in there like that?
I can answer that.
Okay, Phil, answer that, and then we'll go to Keith.
Because outside of ag, that would be the fallowing program. The fallowing program is itself the other two entities that would be looking at this, Cereals and the Water District combining together to fallow the land, or in essence, transfer it, buy it, use it. So that's why, because the fallowing program is the other two entities.
That helps understand. So what you're saying is in the fallowing program, if the water district or somebody was to say, we're willing to work with one of the entities that has access to the transient pool within that program, we would gain the access to that transient pool.
That's sort of the whole concept behind the fallowing program is the GA would get the benefit of that not being pumped, which translates to the two partners in that.
Okay, because again, I think it's very important now we're able to, I think the idea of being able to transfer water within the transient pool is a good idea. And as long as the fallowing program is available there, that if someone was to enter it with someone who has access to the transient pool, that water would become, I guess you're saying it becomes a GA's. I would hope it would become whoever is, I guess a simple way to put it, if someone's going to go purchase a particular part of land that has access to the transient pool, would that purchase entitle to the buyer that portion of the transient pool? And I don't know if this answers it.
So, all right, I guess I'm thinking of this a little differently. Now you're saying if Party A goes out and buys Party B's land and Party B has a transient pool, do they get access and that water right? Not currently in this. We have had one person that's in the transient pool now ask if they can sell their land, and would the owner be able to farm that land, the new owner, with the transient pool water? Obviously, that's not something for me to say yes or no to. It's a board decision. But I can tell you, and I think the board has seen our response to her, which was, if you ask for that, I don't know why the board wouldn't say okay to that. But you seem to be taking that a little bit further to, would one of the following program partners actually, would one of those partners get access to that water by purchasing the land? And it's a board choice.
Thank you.
Keith, over to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond a little bit to the comments from Derek and the attorney for Mojave that suggested that we need to talk to them. It's not in the staff report recommendation, but I think it is the intention of staff, just for clarity, that if the board gives a head nod on these proposals, the next step would be for, I guess, Jim Markman and whoever else is appropriate to sit down with the participants in the program and try to see where we can land on all of this stuff in a mutually satisfactory way.
Thank you, Keith. Other comments? I like the idea of transferability within the transient pool. I think it helps people out, and it provides more opportunity for more people to manage their resources. So I'd be favorable to that. I'm also agreeing with the other issue that we talked about, which was optimizing the the transient pool and the fallowing program. So I'm looking for a comment, a vote, and whatever we need to do.
Do we just need to give staff direction? Is that what we're looking for, Phil?
At this stage, direction, and we'll put something more formal in November, presumably after we hear more from transient pool participants how they would like this new general change and shift to be reflected in a resolution or ordinance.
Thank you. I want to comment on Mr. Markman's comment. Thank you. I think that needed to be said. People need to understand this board is in a situation that we need to benefit this entire valley, and we're trying everything we can to benefit everybody we can. So I appreciate it, Mr. Markman. The other comment was, briefly, is that staff has received quite a few emails on this. I guess I want to make sure that they are addressed in one way or the other. I'm not going to ask for an answer here whether you have or not, but quite a few emails. And the last thing I'd say is I would like the staff to consider that non-members of transient pool, provided that the recipients put the water to agricultural use, that be looked at one more time. I'll accept whatever the staff comes forward, but I think in light of some of the comments we've heard, it might be looked at that opens up the market better, and that may or may not help us. I'll leave that up to the staff. Thank you. With that, my recommendation is that we move forward with this.
I'm okay with that. I disagree with you on one thing, that agriculture thing. I think the whole purpose of transient pool is to transient. And as long as that is the motive behind the agreement, I think the people we're looking to transiate is the agriculture users. If there's others that are willing to transient, then I don't know what the verb is for transient, but whatever it is. Okay, any other conversation? Scott, you have any thoughts?
No, I'm in favor of giving staff direction to move forward on this.
Okay, Keith, Jim, Bill, you guys feel you have direction?
Yes, we'll have something to come back with and maybe define and scope out even further. And here's, I'm sure, some discussions from the transient pool group, which have all been, now that we've adopted it, they've all vocalized.
Good.
We weren't getting vocal before, but now that we've actually adopted it, we've heard from all of them.
Perfect. I'm glad that's happening. Okay, item number 11, board discussion for a vision plan for 2035. Is that me? Okay, I really have nothing to add to that. I've engaged with the leader we've asked to help support us. I know that other people are weighing in to participate. I know the community is getting more and more engaged. The Board of Realtors wants to play a role. We went and talked to the Navy. I think they said, I forget the conversation exactly, but I don't want to commit them to anything, but I think the skipper was very excited about what we're doing here, and I think he talked about having a member of the military on that board, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I didn't even ask him. I'm looking forward to the questions that are being developed and the general themes. I don't want to give any more leadership to the wide perspective that's developing. I just like to sit back and listen to what they're coming back with, and I'm looking for perhaps some comeback in the November meeting. We'll see if that's possible. And I'm sure that's Dave Janis. Go ahead. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Mike Neal.
Hi, Mike.
Yes. Okay, so what was stated the last meeting about this Vision 2035 or whatever you're calling it, I'd just like to say that I have extreme objection to a lot of what I heard stated at that time, more particularly what I think is actually kind of ludicrous is for an unelected agency, the chair of that agency, to sit and say, do we need an elected agency in this valley, i.e. the water district? People listening to that could easily take it away that the GA board, or at least the chair, is thinking about, in some fashion, doing away with the water district and let the GA run it and let the GA become king of all water in the valley. Well, I'll give you my vision plan for what I might call Vision 2021 is that the GA goes away. The unelected boards, we do not want any of. We don't want any more of this. I think you could tell a lot of people we're not happy with your replenishment fees and your other fees, and you got thousands of signatures that you totally rejected on a referendum petition. You got 5,000 out of the bogus 20,000 almost that you put notices out to, and we need an elected authority. We need an end to this unelected board sitting here, especially when they start going completely out of bounds and start trying to talk about basically being the king and directing everybody's water activities all over across the board in this valley. That wouldn't even be the rightful place of an elected GA board, much less an unelected one. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Just to clarify, my comments earlier was when we did talk about that, it was just an idea. It wasn't any direction. It wasn't any concerted thought. It was a concept that deserved to be explored. And my suggestion actually was that it folds under the city, not the GA. So it was not anywhere near the way you're describing it. So, any other thoughts on the board discussion? I don't see any, so we'll move on to item number 12, Water Resources Manager Report.
Yeah, this is Jeff Helsley again.
Hi, Jeff.
Bring up the first slide on the Water Manager's Report, the Prop 1 status. Yeah, invoice number 6, which covered the period January 2020 to March 2020 in the amount of $40,218, was originally submitted back in May, and as the invoicing process goes, we were back and forth with comments and questions from WR and responses, and we made our final responses to them on August 12th of 2020. I've got an update to what's on the slide, but Don Zadiba and I got an email this morning from our contact at DWR that the funds have been released for invoice number 6, and we should be getting payment any day now. Invoice number 7 covered the period from April to June 2020. The amount of that invoice was $95,900. We submitted that on August 29th, along with a combined progress report for Prop 1 and Prop 68, which is required under our new funding agreement. The email we received this morning also said that they are reviewing the invoice number 7 today, and if they have any comments, they should be getting them to us tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see whether it's fine the way it is or whether we have to make more responses to them on that, but taking another step forward. And the next invoice under Prop 1 is due November 30th, and we've already started on that. We could go to the next slide, which is the Prop 68. Prop 68 was awarded in the amount of $330,000 to the Groundwater Authority, although the state currently only had $300,000 to fund it with. Invoice number 1, which covered the period February 18th through June 2020, was prepared. It was for a total of $246,000. We submitted that on August 29th. I understand it from the email that's being reviewed today too, so we'll wait and see whether we get any comments on that. And the next invoice for Prop 68 is also due on November 30th, and we've started on that one too. If there are no questions, I'll go to the next item. This is shown as 2 items on the agenda, 12 and 12D, but the status is the same. One is a total dissolved solids sampling and testing results tech memo, and the other is an isotopes sampling and testing results tech memo. This work had originally been discussed with the Technical Advisory Committee, the scope of this work some time ago. The tech memos include both historic data and information, and also new sampling that's been completed, and the analysis are done, and it's evaluated in the tech memos. Both of the tech memos were given to the TAC on August 31st. We got some good comments back from some of the TAC members. We're reviewing those right now. We're preparing a final tech memo, which is one of the deliverables under Prop 1. And we anticipate we'll have a brief summary presentation on both these results at the board's November meeting. Next item. This is the Department of Water Resources TSS program. That is, they're providing technical support for groundwater sustainability agencies throughout the state. And what we've been talking to DWR about is them funding a well in the El Paso area. It's what we're calling nested piezometers. They basically will be separate monitoring wells so we can get different data on depth and water quality at different depths in the aquifer out in the El Paso area. This TSS process with DWR has been arduous. There's been extensive collaboration that's been done with DWR, including a site visit. It'll be done on BLM properties, so an extensive coordination with them on access and right-of-way, issues of how we'll dispose of the soils that are the byproduct of the drilling process, the cuttings we call them. How those will be disposed of have had to be addressed. Work plans being fleshed out right now. We anticipate that we'll be bringing an agreement with DWR and a summary of this program back to the board in November. And if we go to the last item, which is just an overview of the general schedule for what the authority's been up to, and we start with back in June, all the things that were accomplished. I won't read all of those, although there was an awful lot done. Things gotten out for review in that meeting. We go to the next slide. In July, we got the revised pumping fee adopted. Sustainable yield report was adopted. The pumping verification reports were adopted. Sorry, the pumping verification reports were updated. We had a process with the pumpers on review and comment and updates. We presented the updated reports and then adopted in August, along with the replenishment fee and transient pool alloy program. The new pumping fee, $105, went into effect on September 1. At this board meeting today, in September, we had a review of the meter ordinance. The board gave direction to send a letter. That was implemented and discussed earlier at this meeting. And of course, here at the meeting today, we talked about the policy for new wells, got some direction on the fallowing program, and our replenishment fee that was adopted. Reporting begins on October 1 for that replenishment fee. Our negotiations are underway with direction from the board on the fallowing program, and we'll have some final decisions to make. Talked about today, hopefully by January 1 on fallowing. That concludes the items we have in the slides. Steve, I don't know if you have anything you want to add.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Any questions for Jeff?
I got one.
Go ahead, Ron
Jeff,
Kaczynski.
on the TSS well, tell me, what exactly are we hoping to learn from that particular? What are we looking for when we get into that El Paso area? Are we looking to, and the reason I'm asking this is we have lots of talk in the public about how much water there is out there and how much it can solve our problem. So can you define for me what we expect to learn from that TSS well?
Well, there's a limited amount of data on the El Paso Basin. A new well, that's well documented in the drilling and being able to monitor will let us, verify information we have on water levels, water quality, the change over time. It'll add to our understanding of that part of the basin. We may want to incorporate that into a future update of the model to allow it to more accurately reflect that basin.
And I can add one thing. SkyTem through that area, and as you know, the data is collected, but then you have to tie it in with existing wells. So any more wells that we have in that area, which as Jeff said, there are very few, would be helpful in interpreting the SkyTem data that was collected.
Yeah, I'm just looking to put to rest or get an answer to this idea that if we start drilling wells in the El Paso area, it's going to solve our problem in our basin. I'm hoping that this well goes to that along with SkyTemp and any other data we have. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.
Oh, I don't anticipate, this well will show us any new solution on how to manage the basin. Our estimates are that there's a fairly limited amount of recharge to that basin. This will just provide us next information in case we do want to look at, there is any proposed use out there. model more accurate.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. You done?
Yes.
Thanks, Jeff. The public have any comments? None from the public. Let's bring it over back to the board, and we can move it over to General Manager's report.
Okay, item A. The initial certified letter that informed Mr. Bellino of the public hearing was mailed on August 4th, and it was received and was signed for on August 7th. Subsequent certified letters mailed on August 28th and September 28th were returned this past Tuesday as unclaimed and unable to forward. We have no knowledge of the circumstances that are involved, but given this fact and recognizing our knowledge of Mr. Bellino's recent health issue, staff is recommending a continuance of the hearing to the November 19th meeting. Okay. Item B, the financial report. The balance in the account is $92,225, and you see the outstanding invoices, but I do want to bring to your attention that that balance shown on the report does not include the payments that were received for the month of September that have not yet been transferred to the GA's account. That total as of today is $95,238.11. And also, as Jeff reported earlier with the report on the grant funds, those outstanding invoices total $324,760, something like that. So the finances don't look quite as bleak as it shows on the report. Item number C, groundwater marketers, groundwater Capital Corps. Their reports in your packet. Again, just a brief summary. In September, their efforts centered on outreach for funding and tracking progress on amendments to the National Defense Authorization Act, the NDAA, for policy items related to water scarcity affecting the Department of Defense installations. They've been monitoring both the House and the Senate versions and have proposed amendments to the Water Act with provisions within the House bill addressing the need for collaborative and regional solutions to water supply for military communities in water-constrained areas. They continue to track other federal funding sources for potential funding as they move through Congress. These include the Defense Community Infrastructure Program, the DCIP, the America's Water Infrastructure Act, AWIA, the Drinking Water Infrastructure Act, DWIA, and the Water for Tomorrow Act. And specific updates of these other funding sources are in the packet, and I won't go into those at this time. D, the Severely Disadvantaged Communities Program. We have two programs that are being funded through the Prop 1 grant. Widerwise Consulting has initiated outreach for the Water Conservation Rebate Program that started in August and continued through the month of September. Outreach consisted of distributing promotional postcards targeting the communities in Searles Valley and Inyokern, and they also made phone calls to local contractors to publicize the program. The response has not been overwhelming. They've only had a couple of inquiries. Partly they're attributing it to maybe the pandemic, things that are going on with people, and reluctance to maybe have strange people come to your house and that sort of thing. So, they do think that as more outreach as word gets out, that there'll be more participation. The second program, the Rural Water Association, is conducting the leak audit and repair program. They had a kickoff meeting at Inyokern Community Services District on the 3rd. Their audit team returned September 22nd to begin the audit. They report finding a lot of issues. They have found meters not registering or not installed at all, hydrants leaking, valves leaking, service lines leaking. So all these issues are being photographed and documented. The actual repairs will be conducted through a subcontractor through the Rural Water Association. So that program seems to be getting a lot of headway. They also developed a draft work plan for the communities in Searles Valley. That work plan was provided to myself and to Stetson for review and comment. They did receive comments, and they've incorporated those in the work plan. At this point in time, I'm not really aware of the schedule to begin that. I think they're still working with Inyokern at this point in time. And then once they finish that, they'll focus on Searles Valley. So those are moving ahead, making progress. Item E, the general manager recruitment. At the direction of this board, recruitment for the general manager position was extended to October 10th after we received only 2 applicants by the closing date, the original closing date of August 31st. As a result of extending the posting, we did get a 3rd individual that has submitted express some interest, and we also received interest from Regional Government Services, which is a public agency serving the consulting, administrative, and complete staffing needs of local governments. Their proposal's in your packet. I would suggest that we move as quickly as possible, move forward with the screening and interviewing process. My thoughts would be that the general managers, Alan Christensen, Ron Stratton, myself, I'll get with them. I believe I've already provided them with all the applicants, their qualifications, but we'll go through those again and determine how many, if one or all 4 would be something that the board would want to interview. I can probably set that up for early next week, and then we would come to the board and probably ask for a special meeting with the board to conduct the interviews to be able to move quickly on this. So I don't think we want to wait till November 19th to do this. So that would be my suggestion. I don't know if the board agrees with that, but I think that's the best way to move forward and get this thing done so we can get somebody in here by January 1st. E, delinquent accounts. That I think April's provided you with a update on the delinquent accounts and the actions that have been taken, the contacts that have been made, and where we are with those. Well registration update. Really, we have not had any more wells registered since last month's report. And just as a reminder, where we're at, we have 110 new wells registered since the ordinance was passed. All but 6 of those are claiming de minimis status. So we have at this point in time 129 de minimis and 114 non-de minimis wells registered. Those non-de minimis wells, the 114, are among the 55 non-de minimis pumpers. Staff is tasking itself with a discussion on a strategy to incentivize registration of more de minimis wells. We'll be discussing that on a staff call. I'll take questions on any of those items at this time.
Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Public, what do you think? Caller, go ahead.
Yes, this is Joshua Nugent from Mojave Pistachios again. And let me pull this up here. So I just wanted to talk about the financial reporting again. We request further transparency on the financial reports. As the 2020 September financial reports formulated, it's hard to understand the income and expenditures for the month of September as well as prior months and throughout the rest of the year. So we ask for regular monthly financial reports that are, as most public agencies do, that show revenue and expense for the month itemized by each individual source of revenue. For example, the extraction fee, the Prop 1 grants, or other sources of revenue. And again, to emphasize one of the director's points that we need perhaps administrative expenses as well. All expenditures for the prior month itemized by each individual expenditure, an updated budget, including variance from the budget, reported monthly, and then just the normal financial monthly statements that I see from pretty much every other public board that I'm a part of, or we have an opportunity to listen to their reports, which includes an income statement, a balance sheet, and a check register. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Josh. Good points. Okay. Public's out. Public no more. Bring it back to the board for a comment and thought.
You know I do. Tell me if I talk too much, just shut me down.
You do great.
Okay.
You do great.
All right, and these are for Don. Basically, I notice on the financials here that we're carrying the SDAC. And the reason we're carrying it here is because it's fully funded. Is that correct, from grants? Correct. Okay, so carrying it here is just a pass-through. It isn't affecting the pumping fee and extraction fee. Thank you. Also, Capital Core, how soon are we going to have a defined project? Does it need to be shovel-ready? Do we know anything about that? I know that one time Capital Core came to us and said we need to have something on the books before we start being able to request specific types of money. Do you have any feel for how soon or how long we have to start talking about projects?
I would refer to their project update. I think that information's in there. I'm not 100%
Mr.
sure.
Gleason, I think, is indicating sometime midsummer.
It's soon.
I just want to make sure that we're on track. Yeah.
I don't think we're on track. I think we're behind.
We're going to have to push.
Yeah, we need to move.
Okay.
We're definitely not in for the FY 2021 cycle. I know that. So.
Right. Okay. Okay. So the other one was about the general manager. Basically my question is how are we going to pay them? Because we don't have an administration budget. But however, my biggest concern is that when you begin to look at the recommendation, is that whoever, if it doesn't end up being the organization that has all the support we need, clerk, finance, whatever, if you do pick an individual, I want to understand where their support staff is to handle all the finances, the clerk work, and things like that. That needs to be made clear when you and Ellen and Ron start talking to them, that we expect support in all those areas. What I liked about what you did from what RGS offered is it's a pay-as-you-go. You pay for what you use and what you don't. So it provides us that opportunity to maybe move forward, to at least get started. And I believe an organization like this could really help us get in order for a lot of things that Josh just talked about, the financials, how they are looking at and how they're put together. And then at that point, once we're on a guidance path, if that's what you want to call it, then further down the line, we could begin to look at, because I know it'd be exciting to have somebody that works here and lives here and has an office here. But I think it's prudent for us to move on with something that we pay for what we get. And I think they can offer a lot of assistance, especially in the financial identification and reports that we're talking about. I believe that would help. So I'm in favor of looking at the RGS, but I'm going to leave up for staff recommendation. And the last thing I have is one thing, now that we're into collecting the money with the new pumping fee, which I believe began September 1st. Was that the date? It was
effective for the September report.
I would like to make sure that we keep track of that, because the commitment we made to the public is that additional fee will collect $1.5 million and change. So I would like to make sure that we keep track of from the new pumping fee how much we're collecting. So when we hit that mile mark, then we realize it.
It's being tracked. I can tell you just for water district impact, we paid somewhere around $23,000 for the August pumping, and we paid almost $72,000 for September.
Yeah, so let's track that. So when we hit that mile marker, as we promised the public, that's when we're looking at that fee going away. So I just want to keep track of it. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Let me jump in on that real quick. I agree with your Bellino continuation. I like the fact that we're moving quickly on general manager. I'm looking forward to setting up a meeting to down select, how staff down select it and then bring it to the board, and I'm eager to set that up. I like the process we're going with that. That's okay. I'm a little concerned about Capital Core. I mean, where are we with them, and what is, go ahead.
I just got a text from Michael McKinney with regard to the question about shovel ready. Oops, it disappeared. For an interconnection project, we will not be eligible until the FY 2023, FY 2024 cycle. For the recycled water project, it is shovel ready next year and would be DCIP eligible.
Okay, so we need to move out on that stuff, and I'm glad he's working, and I'm glad he's watching. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. So I'm glad he's there. That's what I wanted to talk about. Scott, any thoughts?
John Vallejo.
John Vallejo, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm a little unclear on what the process is going to be for the interviews and selection of the next general manager. It was unclear to me whether staff is bringing a number of folks forward and we might have a special meeting to interview those folks, or if staff was going to be recommending a particular person. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it. My discussions with the general manager this morning was that the general manager and the general manager from the city and the county were going to sit together, the three of them. They were going to screen all applicants, down select to the number that they thought would deserve scrutiny, further scrutiny, and bring that number forward for a special meeting of the board where we would begin the interview process, and after that, make a decision.
Right, it could be anywhere from 0 to 4.
John, is that clear?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Thank you very much. Scott, any thoughts? Bob Page, haven't heard from you. Oh, you're not around, that's why. Okay. John, do you have any other thoughts in general about the general manager report?
No, thanks.
Thank you, sir. Closing comments. Let's go around the room. John, start with you. John Vallejo, start with you. Closing comments.
I have nothing. Thanks for everyone's participation today.
Thank you, John. Ron?
Not a lot of comments. Thank you for everybody's participation. We all knew this process was going to be grueling, and I'm hoping that all the spaghetti pieces that are out there begin to pull together here shortly. Thank you, and thank you to staff.
Thank you. I have nothing. Scott?
No further comments. Thanks.
Okay, so April Pick said she was going to be done at 1:30. We beat her prediction at 1:16. So this meeting is adjourned at 1:16.